Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've got a great guest for you today. We've got Joshua Huck, who is a construction estimator and is doing great things across several states. And Josh, welcome to the show today. We appreciate you taking the time and spend some time with our audience. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. What type of business do you have and what types of people do you help?
I have a construction estimating consultant business. And so what that does is when people want things built, whether it's architects, general contractors, subcontractors, developers, they need to figure out how much it's going to cost. And so that's where they bring me in. And I work for them directly and provide them with whatever kind of cost format they need, whether it's actual pricing to get the job done, whether it's conceptual pricing to see if a project's worth doing or needs to be redesigned for any variety of reasons. But the main people that I do work for are designers. By designers, I mean architects, engineers. I work for general contractors and subcontractors. And now I'm just kind of revamping. In addition to the construction estimating component, I'll be adding a training component because there's a lack of good estimators. I'm going to be offering the service where companies can hire me to, fly to them or do it over the web to train their junior staff in construction estimating.
Interesting. There's probably been leaps and bounds of how people estimate projects. Is there a specific system that you use or the baseline of how you estimate things?
Not really. I think it just comes from experience. What I'm able to offer is that I have a wide variety of experience. I've been doing this for 20 years. I started off in the military in the Air Force. That's where I received a lot of my training. Then once I separated honorably from the Air Force back in 2000, then I started working for general contractors and just kind of built my experience and had some good mentors along the way. A lot of people that do construction estimating might specialize in one thing like earthwork or concrete or something of that nature, whereas I provide a broad stroke across all different trades. So I'm able to offer, I think, what kind of gives me a little bit of a competitive edge against some other people that do this is that I do, kind of cradle to grave estimating. It's not just one specific thing. And so I'm able to help them out, not just with construction estimating, but construction scheduling when they want to schedule the project. If they have proposals to write, a lot of work I do is actually back with military and federal contracts, 8A companies, service disabled, veteran-owned businesses. I kind of help them get up and going, in the market. And, because working with the federal government can be tricky. And so that's kind of where I come in and help steer them in the right path. And then, if they need my estimating services, I offer that as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your service to the country. And we're very grateful for that. So thank you. What led you to this business and how did you get started? You mentioned that you did some for the military, of course. And
when I was young, I wanted to be an architect. So I've always had an interest in construction. And then once I actually joined the military, my job was electronics maintenance. That was what they gave me out of basic training. And I did that for 2 years and I absolutely despised it. And so there was an opportunity to cross-train into engineering. And so I did that, and they stuck me in a branch of the military, or a branch of my career field called SABRE, which is a multi-year contract. So that allowed me to work with outside general contractors and really get a good handle on construction. And then from there, I just kind of honed it. And I once I was about to get out of the military, I realized I had a good skill. So I was very grateful for that. But then I said, well, do I want to go back to school and become an architect? And then I kind of came down to, well, I'm already learning this. I'm already here. I enjoy it. I'm going to make a lot more money doing this than I would to become an architect. And that's kind of what led me. And then just being able to travel all over the world and work in different states and different countries. And it's just been fun. And it's one of those things that turned into, if you do what you love, you're never going to have to go to work. And that's how I feel.
Oh, that's incredible. That's interesting that you say you want to be an architect. I thought I was going to be headed down that path. My entire graduating class all went to Purdue and got engineering degrees and architect degrees, and I joined the Navy, and they said that I got the better end of the deal. But It was, yeah, that's great. I can appreciate that. But along the way, did you have a book or a movie that inspired you?
The book Rich Dad Poor Dad, that was an enjoyable read, and I used that as far as trying to gain some financial stability of pay yourself first. It motivates you to do everything else. That's where the military training and discipline came in as well to actually bring that to fruition. I'm trying to think other books. It wasn't necessarily books or movies per se. It was more people. Seeing people that had achieved great things in life, especially at an early age. I used that. Any kind of entrepreneur, really admired that spirit of finding something that people need that they don't know they need necessarily. And so it's a matter of having a few good people along the way that I was able to observe and take the positive from their life choices and kind of mold it into what would work for me.
Well, when you mentioned people, that was my next question. Was there anybody in particular that stands out that inspired you?
Actually, my supervisor in the military, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name over the air or not, but his name was Gary Self. I'm still in contact with him through LinkedIn. He was my supervisor. I believe he was a tech sergeant at the time. So that would have been what would that be? E6, E7. And he just kind of, he just kind of was there, and I was able to observe him. He had a family, he had a career going. He just kind of said, "Hey, this is how you should act and behave, and this is what's going to make you successful." And he separated, and actually he retired, I believe, and went on to to a great career that's still going on. And so he was definitely an early on. I don't think he knew it though. Honestly, I don't think I ever told him. So shame on me for that. I definitely need to let him know.
Yeah, you probably need to reach out, and let him know that for sure.
Absolutely. But so him, also my family. I have 3 uncles that became very successful, and so that gave me that insight for ambition. And then my grandmother, who was a social worker, taught me how to balance the want, drive for achievement with compassion for people. And so you take all those, roll them into one. I just kind of jumped in the pool, and here I am still swimming.
That's great. Those are great examples. A little bit more about the passion. Where do you get the passion from to help people that you help? I know you love the actual doing of it, but what's the actual passion that drives you to help people?
It's just what was instilled in me with my grandmother is basic tenets of being a human being. If somebody needs your assistance and you're able to, you help them, and treat people with kindness. And so I try to I take that into what I do for business, and these small and up and coming businesses that just really don't know exactly where to go. I don't know. I get the reward out of knowing that somebody else succeeds. Of course, that usually means my success along with it. So that's a nice benefit. I don't know. It's kind of how I'm built. I like to see other people make something out of their life, because when you see somebody that didn't, whether they had a good chance, good head start or ability to or not, to see somebody, especially that rises out of the ashes or from, a poor background, or, that, hey, we grew up and I was abused, or lived in a car, and now I'm insert successful business title here. I think that's really something that I admire, and so that makes me want to reach out and help them in any way I can. And so with a lot of these construction companies, whether they're large scale, small scale, even the designers and developers, they just have this need that has to be filled. I can step in, they make money, I make money, we all walk away happy. They're successful. Their kids are fed, my kids are fed, and I don't know, life is happy. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, that's a great answer for that question. You said that you're in a pretty good niche. Construction is cyclic, but have you found that there's ever been, you were never short for projects, right? There's things that need to be built all the time.
It is cyclic, and that's one of the advantages I have over my competition, is that I've lived and worked in a lot of areas. And so I have a good handle on labor costs, material costs for, Hawaii, Texas, California, New England. And so instead of where a lot of people might just market to that area, the area they live in, a New York consultant to New York, I have the benefit of multi-state. So when one market dips, the other one's booming. And so it's a constant boom cycle. Whether it's commercial work, whether it's residential work, there's always stuff out there. And I have to turn people away. I haven't advertised in, I think, close to 6 months, just because there hasn't been a need. Everything's been word of mouth and everything coming in. And so it's to the point where I'm overwhelmed sometimes, and I have to constantly slow down and revamp the way I do things. And that's kind of one of the things I'm in the middle of transitioning. I'm still going to be doing construction estimating 75% of the time, but that's why I want to turn it to training, because there's a lot of young kids coming out of college that just don't have the fundamentals. And I think that I could step in and help develop these young kids into something with not necessarily having to go to school for 12 years, but real world experience, which is, I think these days is more valuable to an employer than anything else. And, kids coming out of college, obviously they don't have it, and it's a vicious cycle that they have to go through. So I'm hoping that by offering this, the companies can hire them and then bring me in and kind of make everything work for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great path to go down for sure, where you can certify people where they don't have to spend all this time in school. They can get the knowledge that they need to do the job.
Exactly.
Great service. What would be some of the obstacles preventing somebody from getting a proper estimate or, trying to do it themselves? What would be?
To get a proper estimate or to do it themselves, I mean, for a lot of my clients, it's time. They're so busy during the day. The only time they can do any kind of estimating is at night. Well, that would be taken away from family. And, unhappy family means unhappy everything else, as we all know. And so, the time available is an obstacle. The desire is an obstacle. And then just the time to get a realistic pricing, calling suppliers and subcontractors for real pricing is an obstacle. So I think it all boils down to time. And so that's kind of where I came in and said, well, that's one of my marketing pitches, I guess, especially on my website to them is, I'm your extra time. I'm your 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., so go spend time with your family. So
that's a good way to look at it. Can you describe a brief story of how you've helped someone overcome that?
I had an 8A contractor, which a woman-owned business that they were actually a software company, and they had the opportunity to go into construction, but they had no idea how to do that. So they actually found me. I was doing free advertising on Craigslist when I first started my company. And they found me and they said, we really don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to manage a project, estimate a project, but, we have all these potential work that could fall into our laps, being our classification of 8A. What do we do from here? And so I went in and helped set up some of their internal systems. I estimated projects. We were awarded the projects. I helped manage them at the beginning to get them going. I, helped train their project manager and their superintendents on the sites, and kind of just eventually set them free. Just said, okay, you're where you need to be, and they felt they were, and so they could run with it. And then actually, really not done with them. Still do work for them. When they're overwhelmed, I come in and help out, and I was just working on a project today for them, actually. But that's kind of how I've helped a business go from, hey, we have all these resources available to us, just with no idea how to do it, meet with them and make it work and turn it into financially successful operation for them.
Is there a size of business that you work with, or do you work with certain types of businesses? I know you said commercial and residential both, but not
really. The projects I estimate are they can be $10,000 in price, and they can be $300 million, and everything in between. So, general contractors, I like to stay in the $5 to $50 million a year range as far as business gross income for them. Architects, it really doesn't matter. Subcontractors, typical subcontractors are somewhere between $100,000 to $5 million a year. So I work with those business sizes, types. It really varies. I work with architects, developers, like I said, general contractors. As far as the subcontractors, we're talking site work, concrete, masonry, steel, roofing, drywall, metal stud, painting, you name it, each one of the trades. In construction, there's a classification code called the CSI, and it breaks down all the components of construction into different numbers and categories. And that's one of the things I do is I cover all of those. So whether you're a plumber or a concrete guy, it's I can help you out.
There's been a trend towards using containers to build homes. Have you seen any of that or been a part of any of that?
Yeah, actually I have. Hey, it's affordable and it's trendy, it's boxy, it's industrial, so I can definitely see the look. And plus, with the younger generation too, they want something a lot more cost effective, a lot smaller, especially with the tiny home revolution that's been happening. Everybody's kind of looking to scale down and do things more intelligently. And so I did actually not individual houses, but I did a large multifamily, I think it was a couple hundred containers down in Mexico City. I did this last year, did the initial estimate for the architect. So they're stacking them and turning them into basically a giant condo complex out of containers. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's very affordable and very modern, and I like the idea myself and have a couple of ideas. Very cool. What would be the most important thing that somebody should think about before considering a project?
Constructability, and by that I mean whether it can be built the way the architect designs it. Really, cost is always going to be a factor. That's a given. Everything's always going to be too expensive. They're going to be looking for ways to cut corners or reduce costs rather through either smaller design or less expensive materials. But once you get down to it, though, you got to remember that you actually have to build this thing. It looks good on paper. Can it be built? Can it be built within the time frame? Is that feasible? Can it be built the way it's drawn? Because a lot of times that doesn't happen. It's no matter how educated we are, whether it's an architect or the owner of a contracting company or even myself, we're human beings and we're subject to fault. And so one of the things is that a lot of problems are worked out in the field. So I think actual constructability would be one of the greatest obstacles, just coming together. There's so many team members required these days, as regulations increase, as codes get more strict. Your on-site team, your off-site team, the design team, the financing team, the accounting team. There's all these people that have to come together on a project. And so it's that information sharing that's a big obstacle too. So if you have a good information sharing program, then that's going to make life a lot easier for everybody involved.
Perfect. So if somebody's ready to get started in estimating, how could they reach out to you, find out more about that?
I have a website, www.precision-estimating.com. So precision-estimating.com is my website. I outline, who I serve, how I serve them, how to get started. I try to make it as user-friendly as possible. I'm trying to, when I laid it out, I said, okay, I'm going to play the dumb guy and assume that everybody's smarter than I am. And so I need to lay out everything on my website to where my simple brain could chime in and figure out what's going on. And so that's what I tried to do, is make a really user-friendly website. If I can understand it, I think anybody else can be able to understand it. So they can contact me. My email address is on the website, same with my phone number, whether it's construction estimating, construction scheduling, proposal writing. If you've got some young guys that you want to have trained or your existing guys that you want to have trained further or on specialty items, that's definitely something that I can do. And now I have admin component through my wife. My wife has her own company too. So using her, we can help with the HR aspect if you need to hire people, just general admin stuff, without having to pay the exorbitant cost of an actual recruiter. So yeah, that's kind of, once you go to the website, that's where you can pretty much find everything. I try to make it as easy as possible to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, there was a lot of great nuggets in your interview there, and I want to thank you again for taking the time, being with us on the show today. So thank you very much, and thank you again for your service.
And thank you for yours, and I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk with you.
My pleasure. There you have it, this edition of the show. We'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.